Today I'm going to be covering 5 of the most obscure missing Family Guy characters. For those of you who have stuck around, my original missing Family Guy characters video was the video that put my channel on the map. Anyways, that video shaped the direction of the channel, and it's what really got me into talking about animated shows. With that said, after I did my follow-up video, I didn't think there would be any more missing Family Guy characters to cover. I really thought I had covered them all. But after digging deep and pushing my findings to the limit, I have managed to find 5 of the most obscure missing Family Guy characters. If you know these characters, you are for sure a hardcore Family Guy fan. But first, if you guys like the video, feel free to give it a like, as it does help the channel, and if possible, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you can see my videos right as they release. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin. Number 5, The Dawn.
As you know, I am obligated to grant one favor on this, the day of my daughter's wedding.
If you don't remember the Dawn, he was part of a mafia gang Peter got wrapped up in when he helped Peter commit insurance fraud on a horrible car he bought in Season 2, Episode 16, titled, There's Something About Polly. After he does this favor for Peter, he tells Peter that in exchange he will have to spend a day entertaining his nephew, Big Fat Polly. While Peter and Polly are spending time together, Polly ends up taking a liking to Peter, but when Lois tells Peter the two of them can't be friends, Polly decides to have a hit put out on Lois. Peter and Polly talk things over, but unfortunately before the hit could be called off, Polly is gunned down in a drive-by, which leaves the hit on Lois still standing. Peter and Lois work together and end up asking the Dawn to call off the hit, which he agrees to do because it's the day of his daughter's wedding.
Do me one more favor. Look, I love my wife more than anything in the world. Can you please shoot me instead of her?
Such tenderness and love on this, the day of my daughter's wedding. Why don't I just call off the hit?
This is a phrase he constantly uses, and it's what his character would be most well known for. Also, a fun fact about the Dawn is that his character is a parody of Vito from The Godfather. Now, something interesting I found that isn't even documented on the Family Guy Wikipedia is that you can see the Dawn for a few frames in Season 2, Episode 7, titled The King is Dead.
2 minutes, everybody. 2 minutes.
He's full house.
This shows he was a character who appeared more than once, but he isn't featured until Season 2, Episode 14. Now, unfortunately, after his Season 2 episode, he doesn't appear again, and Family Guy would eventually go off to have a whole host of different Dawn characters in Season 19, Episode 5, but the original Dawn was nowhere to be seen. Unfortunately, this character seems to be lost to time, but if I managed to spot him in an undocumented background appearance, maybe he did appear in the background of more episodes, so let me know if you spot him again. Number 4, Sarah Bennett. Sarah is quite possibly the most obscure named character the series forgot about. Sarah Bennett only had 2 appearances across the series. Sarah Bennett was a background character that worked at the Happy-Go-Lucky Toy Factory, where she would be remembered as the woman who got offended by Peter's sexist joke in the episode I Am Peter, Hear Me Roar.
Are you telling jokes? I love jokes.
Oh, all right, then you'll love this one. Okay. Why do women have boobs? So you got something to look at while you're talking to them.
In the episode Stewie Griffin The Untold Story, Sarah Bennett makes her final appearance, where she is the one who gets offended by Peter cutting in line.
Oh my god, it's you! I loved your rant about how bread is square and bologna is round. Oh, a table just opened up.
Hey, we've been waiting.
That's Michael Moore.
Also, when trying to find information on this character, I can't even find who voiced Sarah Bennett, but if I had to guess, it was probably Rachel McFarlane. I think Sarah Bennett will go off as one of those one-time characters that we're never going to see again. Now it's time for number 3, Brri Brown.
It's a very safe procedure, son. You won't feel a thing.
Brri Brown was Cleveland's younger brother who first appeared in Season 2, Episode 16, titled He's Too Sexy for His Fat. In this episode, Cleveland suggests to Peter that he should take Chris to his brother Broderick for weight loss advice, but once they arrive at Broderick's office, they find out that he is a weight loss surgeon. Broderick would later on end up giving Peter liposuction and be mentioned a few times within the episode. However, he wouldn't appear in Family Guy again after this episode. He would later go on to appear in some Family Guy spin-offs though. One of the interesting spin-offs Broderick made a cameo in was the Family Guy video game. After this, Broderick's next appearance would be when he made a return in the Cleveland show, where we find out Broderick went off to join the military. Now, while Broderick was in the military, he was shipped off to Afghanistan. But in Season 1, Episode 12 of the Cleveland show, Cleveland got into some gang-related problems, so Broderick flew back and saved the day by giving the gang drugs he had smuggled from a raid, which got Cleveland bailed out of trouble. This would end up being Broderick's last appearance, as unfortunately, as with most of Cleveland's family, besides a picture of Broderick in Cleveland's house, Broderick seems to be a character that is gone forever. Now it's time for number 2, Joe's Quahog police friend Horwitz. Horwitz was a police officer that worked alongside Joe at the Quahog police station. His most notable appearance was in Season 3, Episode 1 titled The Thin White Line.
Whoa, Brian, there's no smoking in the terminal.
Hey, there's worse things than nicotine, pal. And I'm gonna find them.
Patience, lad. It took dear St. Patrick more than a day to clear the Emerald Isle of
Oh,
snakes.
can the Irish crap, will you, Horowitz?
Okay.
In this episode, Horwitz pretends to have an Irish accent, and it's surprisingly good. However, Brian isn't in the mood for it because he's having a short temper due to his drug addiction. Horwitz and Joe end up stopping Brian from wrongfully searching through somebody's luggage, but then Brian tells Horwitz to show Joe his impression of him.
Batch.
Fine. By the way, Horowitz, you should show Joe your impression of him.
Oh, well, no, he's not as good as, my Irish cop. It's just a little thing Look at me, I'm Joe! My legs don't work, but I make up for it by having a very strong upper body.
Well, I do say that.
This is without a doubt Horwitz's most memorable scene. After this, Horwitz would then go off to appear in the episode To Love and Die in Dixie. In this episode, he was the cop that was available while Chris pointed out who the mass media murderer was. His final cameo was in Season 8, Episode 12 titled The Extra Large Medium, where the writer surprisingly had him making a cameo as a background character, but unfortunately we haven't seen Horwitz since this episode, leaving us to wonder what happened to him. Number 1. Dr. Bruce Kaplan. This is probably the most important missing Family Guy character. Dr. Kaplan's first appearance was in Season 2, Episode 4 titled Brian in Love. In this episode, Brian was having a problem where he couldn't stop himself from urinating on the carpet, and after an embarrassing accident at the Stop and Shop, Brian goes to Dr. Kaplan for therapy. During Brian's first therapy session, it doesn't take long for him to open up to Dr. Kaplan. After some therapy sessions, later on, Dr. Kaplan helps Brian come to the conclusion that the reason why Brian was urinating is because he is in love with Lois.
Look, I love Lois, but I'm not in love with her.
Mm-hmm. Who are you trying to convince, Brian, me or you?
Oh, Brian, what a mess. Don't get antsy, I got 3 minutes left.
This episode, however, wouldn't be Dr. Kaplan's last appearance. This is because once Brian and Lois talked out Brian's feelings, we ended up seeing Dr. Kaplan in Season 2, Episode 13 titled Road to Rhode Island. In Road to Rhode Island, Dr. Kaplan has a therapy session with Brian once again, and during this session, Brian comes to the conclusion that he has separation issues and that he misses his mother.
Well, Brian, I think we've stumbled on the root of your problems. You have abandonment issues. You need to confront your mother and deal with this.
Dr. Kaplan's last appearance is in Season 3, Episode 1, when he arranges an intervention for Brian to confront him about his drug addiction. But after Brian is rehabilitated, we never see Dr. Kaplan again. Now, this character is important because a question I've gotten a lot over the years is when Brian's character started to go downhill. Most people claim that it was after Brian was brought back to life, but I argue it was a lot earlier than that. You can see earlier examples such as how he treated Pearl Burton, an elderly woman he fell in love with in Season 3, versus how he treated Rita, an elderly woman he claimed to love in Season 8, but then he went off to cheat on her and blamed it on her age. But to me, the moment Brian's character truly changed for the worse was when he stopped going to therapy. Dr. Kaplan used to guide Brian down paths that would lead to an adventure where Brian would have self-growth. But once he stopped going to therapy, unless Stewie caught Brian in a moment where he was hurting inside, no one was there to help Brian talk out his problems and continue growing as a character. But with that said, sadly, it doesn't seem like Dr. Kaplan will be returning anytime soon. Well guys, that does it. I really hope you guys enjoyed this obscure missing Family Guy characters video, as it seemed like you guys really wanted me to do another one. That being said, I think we've covered just about every Family Guy character out there, so I'm looking to make lists using other lost characters from various shows outside of Family Guy, so if you have anyone you would like me to cover for another missing character list video, please comment them down below. And of course, if you guys enjoy videos like these, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell so you can be notified as these videos release. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. You guys all take care. Have a good one.